Every forest has its secrets. Some hold whispers of ghosts, others the traces of crimes long forgotten. But in 1985, deep within the woods of northern Georgia, an innocent creature crossed paths with one of the strangest tragedies in American history. A 175-pound black bear stumbled upon something it should never have found. Duffel bags ripped open and leaking white powder. Not food, not shelter, not safety, but pure cocaine. What followed is a story both darkly tragic and bizarre. A tale of greed, recklessness, and the strange afterlife of an animal now known worldwide as Cocaine Bear. Tonight we dive into the real story behind the legend, separating fact from myth, and exploring why this strange case still fascinates us nearly 4 decades later. To understand how cocaine rained down into the Georgia forests, we must first look at the man at the center of it all, Andrew Thornton. Thornton wasn't your average smuggler. He came from privilege, born into a wealthy Kentucky family, trained as a paratrooper, even working as a narcotics officer in the Lexington police. But somewhere along the way, Thornton crossed the line. Instead of stopping drug traffickers, he became a smuggler himself. Thornton joined what became known as the Company, a group of rogue Kentucky elites, lawyers, horse breeders, businessmen, who made fortunes smuggling drugs into the U.S. In the late 1970s and early 80s, they lived double lives, mingling with high society while flying covert missions under the cover of night. Thornton became infamous for his daring flights, dropping cocaine shipments from planes into remote forests for later pickup. But arrogance and recklessness would lead him to a grim end. On the night of September 11th, 1985, Thornton piloted a small twin-engine plane loaded with hundreds of pounds of cocaine. But there was a problem. The plane was far too heavy to clear the Appalachian Mountains. Somewhere over northern Georgia, Thornton began hurling duffel bags of cocaine out the side hatch. Each bag weighed 70 to 80 pounds. Tied shut with rope. He intended to return later, retrieve the cargo, and distribute it. But Thornton's mission unraveled. With his plane failing, he strapped bricks of cocaine to his own body, donned night vision goggles and a bulletproof vest, and leapt from the plane into the night sky. His parachute, either tangled or improperly deployed, never opened. The next morning, authorities found Thornton's body in Knoxville, Tennessee. He carried 2 pistols, thousands in cash, a survival knife, and cocaine taped to his body. The smuggler who once outsmarted law, enforcement had become a bizarre cautionary tale. Three months later, in December 1985, hunters in Georgia's Blue Ridge Mountains stumbled across something far stranger than deer or game. In the quiet woods, they found the lifeless body of a black bear. Nearby, duffel bags lay shredded apart, their contents scattered like snow across the forest floor. It didn't take long for investigators to piece the story together. The bear had found the cocaine dropped from the sky, and it had consumed it, a lot of it. The animal had torn into the duffel bags, ingesting an estimated 70 pounds of pure cocaine. Authorities were stunned. They had heard of addicts overdosing on grams, but this was a wild animal consuming enough powder to kill dozens, if not hundreds of people. The sight was both horrifying and surreal. The medical examiner who performed the necropsy on the bear described one of the most shocking cases he had ever seen. The bear's stomach was literally bursting with cocaine. Traces of the drug saturated every organ. The lungs were hemorrhaging. The kidneys were failing. The brain showed catastrophic damage. The examiner said simply, its stomach was packed to the brim with cocaine. There isn't a mammal on Earth that could survive that. The bear likely died quickly, within minutes of ingesting the drug. It would have suffered seizures, organ failure, and cardiac arrest. The press had a field day with the story, dubbing it Cocaine Bear. For some, it was a tragedy of nature colliding with human vice. For others, it was dark comedy. An absurd headline that seemed too strange to be true. You might think the story ended there, with the bear buried in an unmarked grave. But Cocaine Bear's tale took an even stranger turn. The body was preserved through taxidermy. For years it disappeared, changing hands in private collections. At one point, it was displayed in a Kentucky shopping mall. At another, Elvis Presley's estate supposedly owned it briefly. Eventually, the bear found its permanent home at the Kentucky for Kentucky Fun Mall in Lexington, where it became a tourist attraction known as Pablo Escobar. Visitors posed with the glass-cased bear, laughing nervously at the plaque telling its bizarre story. Over time, Cocaine Bear entered folklore, inspiring country songs, memes, and eventually, a 2023 horror comedy film imagining what might have happened if the bear had survived and gone on a bloody rampage. From tragic accident to dark legend, the bear had become immortal. Hollywood may have reimagined Cocaine Bear as a rampaging predator, terrorizing campers and hunters. But reality is far more sobering. The bear never attacked anyone. It never ran wild through the forest in a drug-fueled frenzy. In truth, the overdose killed it almost instantly. What makes the real story haunting isn't what the bear did, but what people did. A smuggler's arrogance, a failed parachute, and duffel bags tossed into the woods set off a chain reaction that destroyed innocent life. It's a story not of monsters lurking in the dark, but of human greed casting a shadow over nature. The real Cocaine Bear is more than a strange headline. It's a cautionary tale. One man's reckless pursuit of wealth led to his own bizarre death, and the needless death of a wild animal caught in the crossfire. Yet from tragedy, a legend was born. The bear lives on in roadside museums. Songs and cinema transformed into a pop culture icon. Perhaps that's why this story endures. Because it straddles the line between horror and absurdity, tragedy and comedy. The strangest thing of all? This story is true. And sometimes, the true stories are the ones we find the hardest to believe. I hope you enjoyed tonight's story of the dark and strange. Please like and subscribe for more true stories of the dark and strange. Good night.